Hey guys, this video is about the Power Mac G3 Blue and White and what we can do with it in the year 2020. Now, this computer was built on December 23rd, 1998, according to a little sticker on the back. But I found a use for it here in my home brewing room. And it's a little bit, slow for modern stuff, but I decided that it would be nice to have a computer that I could do basic word editing on, for taking field notes, writing down recipes, and light web browsing where I could look up recipes, save them, and so on and so forth. And I have a soft spot for the system because when I was 14 years old, I bought one for about $20. So even back then they were pretty worthless. But when the chance came up to buy one about a month ago, I jumped on it. So this is a 400 megahertz model, and I think the real reason, if you're watching this video, I think we're all watching the video, is because I've done some upgrades to it. I think they're worth sharing. A lot of them are common knowledge, but I thought it would be nice to maybe capture all of them in one video. So today in 2020, we're running Mac OS X 10.4.11. Is it Mac OS X, Mac OS 10? As long as we all know what we're talking about, 10.4.11 Tiger. And we're running relatively modern stuff, I'd say. I mean, if I can get online and I have Microsoft Office installed on it, I think it serves some purpose, although you can't really use this as your main computer unless, you're really pushing it. But anyhow, let's go ahead and look through it. I'm not going to waste your time with going through the little buttons and ports, and I think there's already a lot of videos and articles that capture all this. If you're watching this video, you're probably already a kind of a Mac geek, so I won't bore you with that. So actually right now I have this Apple keyboard and mouse, and they are wired, so my USB port or the connector actually won't reach when I have the computer swung around like this, so I'll need to plug it in at some point to actually use the keyboard and mouse. But for right now, I'll quickly run through the interior of it. Up front, we have a gigabyte of OWC memory. So this is the max the system supports. We have 4 256 megabyte sticks, which it's essentially the best you can do. But for Tiger, that's great. For light web browsing, it still works fine in the year 2020. This is the stock 400 megahertz G3 CPU. You can put a G4 in these computers from a Yikes, or there's a couple aftermarket systems, actually, like I think Sonnet. There are some others. You could look it up if you really wanted to know. I really don't want to upgrade the CPU. I have a G4 PowerBook and a G5 Power Mac already. So to me, this is keeping the system pure. It's kind of interesting. I've repasted it. Besides that, the CPU is the original CPU. The meat and potatoes of the upgrades are probably in these PCI slots here. So if you're a blue and white G3 guy, you'll know that this first slot here is for the video card. It runs at twice the speed of the other slots, which are a little bit longer. So this is a Radeon 7000. It's not the fastest card you could put in or the best, but for $15, which is what I paid, it's fine. I'm happily running Mac OS on it. Or Mac OS X, I guess. Is it? Mac OS, I think, is a relatively modern term. But I've got a DVI connector now alongside the VGA and S-Video, whereas the stock card only had, I think, VGA. But it's a fine card. I had to flash it. So actually able to flash it from within Mac OS 10.4 using whatever the program, I forget the name of the program, but I was able to do it actually from within the blue and white. I had to move it into one of these other slots and then run the flashing utility, and then I physically moved the card to this slot, and then when I rebooted it, it just worked. So that was really nice. Nice $15 or so upgrade. Next door, this is my Belkin F5D 7000 wireless G card. So the only reason I'm mentioning this as an upgrade is because it actually shows up as an airport card. So there's no drivers needed, there's no third-party utility, you just pop it in, boot the system up, and Tiger sees it as an airport card, which to me is really nice. So wireless G, it still is compatible with almost everyone's router. So I'm able to have wireless networking with no drivers needed. Everything is nice and clean. So thumbs up there in my book. So we're online using that. Next to that is a USB 2.0 card. This is a CompUSA brand, and I think I just got it for maybe $5 or $10 on eBay. Not a lot to say. You guys know what USB cards look like. There's 2 ports on the back, as you can see. Not a lot to say there. But it's nice to have USB 2.0 when I'm transferring files and such. But this last card, I think, is really where, I think I've unlocked a lot of the potential of this computer, or at least I've been able to get it up to as usable as it possibly can be with today's technology, and that is a SATA card. Now you can see the ubiquitous SATA cable here. This is a Saiba card that I got, I want to say it was $10 on eBay, and I had to flash it, and there's a program that I found that I could flash it from, again, within the Mac. Really easy to use. The firmware is from Weebitek, and it's well documented, but it was really quick. I just ran the utility within Mac OS X, and boom, I restarted. I set the startup disk to the drive that I had plugged in, and it was natively recognized. On the other end of the cable is a 60 gigabyte Kingston SSD, so it's a SATA 3 SSD. It might be SATA 2 to be honest, I'm not really sure, but it's a SATA SSD. So we're completely gone of the IDE cables and the problems with the Revision 1 motherboards, which this is a very early Rev 1 motherboard. So we're completely SATA SSD, and that's great. Besides that, the power supply is stock. This is the stock CD-ROM drive. I don't even think it can burn CDs, to be honest. I think a zip drive was optional. Obviously, I don't have anything there. There's no floppy drive or anything. No harm, no foul. So I'll go ahead and close this up. Let me plug the USB keyboard and mouse back in, and we'll look through the software side of it. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, we're running Tiger. I mean, everything is how you would expect. We'll go to About This Mac here. You can see our 400 megahertz processor, our gig of RAM, pretty standard stuff for blue and white G3 that's been upgraded. Here's our Radeon 7000, 64 megabyte. Obviously it's over PCI, but you can see here we do have Quartz Extreme, and that was using a small utility. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, but it enables Quartz Extreme on PCI cards, so that's pretty nice. I mean, everything is pretty snappy. I mean, if there's no discernible lag when I drag windows around. As far as just using Mac OS X in general, it's quite snappy. We've talked about the RAM already. There's our PCI cards here. So we have our SATA card, we have our ATI video card, our other network controller, which just shows up as basically just a normal airport card, and our USB controller. So yeah, I mean, everything is, yeah, it's nice. There's our airport card there. So, I have it plugged in here to just a pretty cheesy compact display. It does have built-in speakers, and I'm able to run, I think this is iTunes 9 or iTunes 10. iTunes 9. But for a little homebrewing setup, it'll do me just fine. For software, I have a few options. I have 10.4 Fox G3, which I think if you're watching this video, you've already at least heard of if you've gotten this far. And then I have Iceweasel, which I think I'm going to get a USB extender after reviewing this video. Yeah. think this little banner will if you're watching this in a year or two, you'll remember the COVID-19 stuff, but this is going on in the background of this video right now, the whole COVID-19 thing. But as you can see, it's not a very snappy computer, but you know what? It does work. The fact that I'm able to even load this in the first place on a computer built in late 1998, I think really says a lot. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to talk about. How far can you take it? What can you really do with a Mac like this in the year 2020? How about a Word document? This is 2004. 2008, I don't think supports the G3. It's also pretty crappy even on G4s and G5s, as I think most of us have found. But yeah, I mean, if I wanted to do some basic word editing here, I've just typed a recipe, and that'll work just fine for me. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you're interested in old PowerPC Macs, then I'd encourage you to check out the G3 Blue and White. At the very least, it's fun to take it apart. It's so easy to work on that I think it'll be rewarding, and you can find upgrades for it for really cheap. The SATA, you can add Bluetooth to it. The RAM, pretty much everything is a lot less than you probably think. Anyway, see you later. Bye.